It was only about a year ago that J-Bear Spartan Brigade, along with nearly 50 other U.S. Army brigades, was on the chopping block.
Now, flash forward to today, and as you heard Senator Dan Sullivan say earlier in the newscast, the 425, the Army's only rapid response Arctic Airborne Brigade, is once again deployed across 25 different locations in Afghanistan.
As of September, roughly 2,100 soldiers deployed for a 9-month-long tour. Their mission? To train, advise, and assist the Afghan National Defense Security Forces.
It's a mission Channel 2's Blake Essig and photojournalist Albert Luton have witnessed in person over the past 2 weeks as they spent time learning more about the role of the 425 in Afghanistan.
The Spartan Brigade has 2 missions here in Afghanistan. The NATO Resolute Support Mission, aimed at training, advising, and assisting the Afghan security forces. And then there's the Pentagon's mission, known as Operation Freedom Sentinel, a counterterrorism mission. I'm told both are equally important in the effort to help the Afghans control and defend their own country.
During the IDF accident, put on the ground and wait for my comment.
6 days a week. Guardian angels from Poland provide safe passage for advisors from the 425. Advisors like Lieutenant Colonel Richard Johnson, who's headed off base for a battle update briefing with leaders from the Afghan National Army.
This is where the rubber meets the road for the train and advise and assist mission. This is where we can maximize our contacts with the Afghan security force leadership.
While soldiers here will admit it's not exactly the most exciting mission they've ever participated in, this is exactly what NATO's Resolute Support role looks like.
I asked the brigade commander, hey, talk to the governor.
The task? To train, advise, and assist.
That is the big part of our mission set in helping the ANA, telling them what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong, making recommendations to them on how they can better enable their unit.
As for the troops' dual role here, Operations Freedom Sentinel is the 425's other mission. The Spartan Brigade is focused on counterterrorism, providing security for special forces on the front line against insurgents. 2 missions that Corps Commander Lieutenant General Mohammed Zaman Waziri says is helping Afghan security forces gain confidence and proficiency on the battlefield as they now lead the fight against both ISIS and the Taliban.
We look at both of them as a threat and the enemy of this country. Anywhere they live, anywhere that they live and they have their safe haven, we're going to attack, we're going to go do an operation to get rid of them.
And for the Afghan army to be successful, mentoring and support from Alaska's Arctic Airborne Brigade are critical, even if that means stepping away from the combat role the 425 has been trained to perform.
It's a challenging terrain, it's a challenging atmosphere. It is a non-traditional mission, but the young men and women from Alaska, from this brigade, have adapted to the mission, have embraced it, and they're making a huge impact for the future of Afghanistan.
A future which commanders here say is looking brighter, bit by bit, day by day.
Brigade Commander Colonel Jason Jones says it was a slow start following the initial deployment, but that his 425 Brigade has since hit what he calls their battle rhythm, motivated to make a difference here in Afghanistan. Reporting from Tactical Base Ganbury in eastern Afghanistan, Blake Essig, Channel 2 News.
Since the 425's first deployment to the Middle East in 2006, 76 members of Alaska's Spartan Brigade have been killed in action.
Now, that includes Staff Sergeant David Brabender. Earlier this year, he was killed when the vehicle he was in slid off the road and down a cliff.
When the number of U.S. soldiers killed in action has gone down dramatically in recent years, Channel 2's Blake Essig says memorials to fallen soldiers serve as a constant reminder of the dangers all around.
The Tora Bora Mountains behind me are where Osama bin Laden and others planned the attacks that took place on 9/11. Attacks that served as the catalyst for the United States invasion of Afghanistan. More than 16 years later, we are still here, making this America's longest war, one that has so far claimed more than 2,400 American lives. Across Afghanistan at different military posts, you'll find memorials dedicated to the men and women who sacrificed everything while serving their country. Like this one here at Forward Operating Base Fenty, where 274 names are forever embedded within its walls.
All 274 of them have paid the ultimate sacrifice for you and I. And that's what probably touches me the most.
It captures the best things that our nation is about. Everything that we were founded on, everything that we were there, the selfless acts, the courage and everything. This is what this represents as you move all the way around. You can just go over each one of these names right here, and you can talk about every one of them. And they all have done some fantastic sacrifice that a lot of people just don't understand.
The one guy that means the most to me on this wall is Tom Kennedy. He was a friend of mine, was killed in 2012 by a suicide attack. You don't want to forget this. You don't want to forget the men and women that have come before us that have done this.
Every day when you walk by here, I know a lot of the names, but in all reality, it's the values, it's the character, it's everything else that's actually imbued within these stone, and they'll never leave. And that's fantastic.
Forward Operating Base Fenty is named after one of the men on this wall. This man, Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Fenty. On May 5th, 2006, he and 9 others were killed when their Chinook crashed during combat operations high above the mountains of the Chelas Valley. Reporting from Forward Operating Base Fenty in Jalalabad, Blake Essig, Channel 2 News.
We continue our special series of reports called Operation Afghanistan, tonight with a visit to soldiers training at Bagram Air Base, who've also experienced some very real dangers.
Blake Essig and photojournalist Albert Luton bring us the story from Afghanistan.
For 425 soldiers serving here in eastern Afghanistan, there's no such thing as 9 to 5. Their workday started when they deployed in September, and it doesn't finish until they get back home to Alaska.
On a warm day in January at Bagram Airfield, soldiers from J-Bear's Able Company 3509 are simulating a green-on-blue attack.
It's a very real danger and something that all units in this country and any other country where we're deployed in should be ready to react to.
All right, get out. In this situation, the platoon must secure the area while the medic tends to 2 injured soldiers. A real-life scenario that could and has played out on the battlefields of Afghanistan.
We try to train every day as much as possible, unless something really comes up or a mission comes up. And if a mission or something does come up, because we've been training every day, we are ready for that mission.
For the men and women of the 425,
all right, we're good.
Maintaining a constant sense of readiness is what they do for a living.
It's not just a job. It's not just going to work every day.
And perhaps there's no better example of that than what happened a few weeks ago, about 114 miles southeast of Bagram Airfield at Forward Operating Base Fenty.
All 4 of the grenades landed in this area right here.
On that day, Sergeant Aaron Funderburk and Specialist Ryan Camden were providing security for international contractors when a middle-aged Afghan man approached.
And then he walked down here, almost straight in front of us, and squatted down facing out, and then just started lobbing grenades over his head.
The first grenade hit an international contractor from Uganda in the neck. Another landed at the feet of a group of contractors. It was then the attacker squared up on the 2 Americans, throwing a grenade which landed at their feet.
We were probably about a meter away from the grenade that blew, and once it blew, we picked up, looked over, and he was running across the field, and we just dropped him out in the field.
Troops here got lucky that day, as only one of the 4 grenades thrown actually exploded, recycled relics from the Soviet era. Several weeks later, white residue still marks the spot of the attack here.
Outgoing.
Meanwhile, as the sun goes down behind the Torgar Mountains, roughly 20 miles northwest of Tactical Base Gambarry, soldiers fire several rounds of the M777 howitzer daily in support of coalition forces and to deny the enemy any possibility of movement within the 425's operating space.
Not too often does every unit get to engage the enemy, but when we do, we just have to be ready to always answer the call, accurately and timely.
A mission which the entire brigade across eastern Afghanistan is training for and focused on, one day at a time.
The 425 still have about another 4 months on their deployment here in Afghanistan, meaning they will start to return home to Alaska around the month of May. Reporting from Tactical Base Gambarry in the Logman province, Blake Essig, Channel 2 News.
Within the military, it's not uncommon to meet a future spouse while on duty. What's not common is to have a married couple deployed at the same time and at the same location.
Our special series, Operation Afghanistan, continues tonight with Channel 2's Blake Essig at Bagram Airfield with a story of a military couple facing the hardship and the dangers together.
Out of the roughly 2,100 soldiers from the 425 deployed across eastern Afghanistan, there are 2 married couples, but only one is deployed at the same location, right here at Bagram Airfield.
As soon as we walk in the door, we immediately see pictures of the great times we've had together.
Staff Sergeants Nicole and Charles Detweiler have been married for about 5 years, meeting a few weeks before their first deployment in 2011.
I feel like we got lucky.
But for roughly the past 4 months, this is home.
This is where we sleep. Well, the magic happens.
Sure, it isn't the most spacious. The walls are made of plywood, and permanent marker serves as a permanent reminder of those who came before.
This is where we keep my extra gear.
But for the Detweilers, none of that matters. Because even though this house is a half a world away, located in the middle of a war zone, simply being together under the same roof offers a sense of comfort.
It helps to have one another to we're in this together.
But despite that comfort, their family isn't whole.
So this is Jordan, this is Kamari.
While Nicole and Charles spend 9 months overseas, their kids, 9-year-old Kamari and 3-year-old Jordan, are back home in Florida, being cared for by Charles' father.
We are both missing out on moments with our kids due to the fact that we're both in the armed forces.
Unlike other branches of the military,
the Army says we're going, so we're going.
The Detweilers didn't have a choice when it came to one of them staying back with the kids.
That's the most heart-wrenching thing, is that both parents are gone.
Instead, relying on a good support system back home and each other here in Afghanistan to keep their families strong and focused on the mission at hand.
I mentioned a second married couple deployed within the 425. Now, they're stationed at 2 separate bases, about 8 minutes apart by helicopter. Now, even though they are close, I'm told that typically they only see each other during the holidays. At Bagram Airfield, Blake Essig, Channel 2 News.
Well, about 2,100 members of Alaska's Spartan Brigade are assigned to 25 different installations all across Afghanistan.
Well, some are serving their 9-month deployment at large bases like Bagram Airfield. Others are based at far more remote outposts involved in counterterrorism efforts.
Channel 2's Blake Essig and photojournalist Albert Luton recently visited one such outpost on the front line against the insurgents.
The flight we're about to take to OP Mad Dog in the southern Nangahar province almost never happens during the day. That's because the number of insurgents hiding in the Moman Valley is making this flight incredibly dangerous. Embarking on a journey in one of the most perilous regions in the world. We are wheels up from Jalalabad Airfield. Touching down at Outpost Mad Dog about 20 minutes later. It's a short flight, but one that requires an escort into a part of Afghanistan affectionately known by U.S. soldiers as the Valley of Death.
It's just an all-around dangerous place.
Situated in the Moman Valley, a handful of miles from the Afghan border with Pakistan, Outpost Mad Dog and several others like it are located on what's considered the front lines in the fight against ISIS and the Taliban.
This is an inherently dangerous place, absolutely, and you have bad guys all around us.
Because of that, this small, rugged outpost with no running water, no kitchen, and tents built from scratch.
This is the most austere location you can really get.
Is manned by U.S. infantry and artillery platoons from the 425, standing guard 24 hours a day.
Yep, good to go, sir. Here we go.
Constantly training. They aim to send a very loud message to insurgents.
There's no safe area as far as U.S. personnel here. So we maintain pretty strict guard towers and defensive operations.
The 425's primary mission here to provide security on the ground and artillery fire support for both U.S. and Afghan special forces, conducting operations within the valley. A call First Lieutenant Kyle Brand says his platoon is prepared to answer.
They definitely understand that at any moment they have to drop their stuff and do whatever they're doing because someone's calling on them, and they're calling on them for a pretty good reason.
One Green Beret, who asked us to protect his identity, says the Spartan Brigade's support gives him and his team peace of mind.
It's nice to have the 425 soldiers there with us, carrying what we carry, bringing the fight to the enemy. I trust the Afghan forces; they're capable. There's just a peace of mind having an American next to you, having a guy wearing the same flag as you, and so when I go out with these soldiers, I can trust them inherently, absolutely, you know, to cover my back.
And providing cover here is no small responsibility. It's a life and death fight against determined insurgents trying to hide throughout these hills.
On a clear day, you can see the enemy. You can see American aircraft, you know, doing their mission. In the same way, we can see the forces we support mutually.
A fight that's expected to intensify in the coming months as the winter snow slowly begins to melt and insurgent supplies and new fighters trickle in. A desperate yet determined fight in a 16-year battle to control these otherwise quiet mountains.
Because this outpost is so remote, soldiers like these from Blackfoot Company are rotated in and out frequently, allowing them to relax, refocus, and maybe even do a little laundry. Reporting from the Momon Valley in Afghanistan, Blake Essex, Channel 2 News.
As we approach the beginning of the Winter Olympic Games this week, we're reminded that sports is often considered the world's most unifying tool for peace.
Even if it is often serves as a temporary reprieve from violence and war, a reality not lost on those who live and work in a war zone. Channel 2's Blake Essex shows us the positive impact a little playtime can have in tonight's Operation Afghanistan.
Although it seems conflict exists in all corners of the globe, so does soccer. A game with the ability to bring people together, even if they might seem to have little else in common.
Around 3:30 in the afternoon, on any given day, this dirt lot transforms into something beautiful.
It's all about friendship.
Surrounded by barbed wire, a bunker, and soldiers standing guard from above, a whistle blows, and a game begins.
All right, back.
From the sidelines, the differences are obvious.
We speak like 4 or 5 different languages between all of us.
But once on the field, their differences fade away. It doesn't matter where you're from, what you believe in, or why you're here. There's only the game.
The only language you need is soccer.
With each dribble, pass, and shot on goal, the beautiful game unites a staff sergeant from Virginia, a contractor from Uganda, and an Afghan translator from Kabul.
There's only one soccer ball, and the rules are all the same.
Turning this dirt field into a cultural bridge.
You throw a ball out on a field, it could be dirt, grass, gravel, and you can sit there and play for hours with people you don't even know. It's more than just a ball, a sport. It's about like the people that we come together with, and it more or less eases tensions without knowing it.
In a place where joy, fun, and friendship are hard to find, this game creates a foundation for all three. And in that way, it's as much a part of the peacekeeping process as the many missions run here in Afghanistan.
Thank you, sir. Well, the game only lasts a few hours. I'm told the friendships forged on this dirt field in the middle of a war zone will last a lifetime. Reporting from Tactical Base Ganbury in Afghanistan, Blake Essig, Channel 2 News.
The war in Afghanistan began more than 16 years ago, and Alaska-based soldiers have played a big part in the fight.
And while some things have not changed, Channel 2's Blake Essex shows us in tonight's segment of Operation Afghanistan that the tactics, the enemy, and the role of Afghan security forces most certainly have.
It's been 11 years since the first time Command Sergeant Major Joseph Hassan stepped foot on Afghan soil.
First deployment, we were trying to figure things out, where we're at, what we were doing.
Since 2007, he's been back 3 more times, currently deployed with the 425 at a forward operating base Fenty.
Coming back now, realizing that, you know, there's about 15,000 American soldiers, give or take, here in Afghanistan, and we're holding the same amount of land that we did in 2012 when there was about 141,000. It's been very, very noticeable that the Afghan security forces actually are becoming more and more capable of doing the job that they need to do.
Thoughts echoed by nearly everyone we've talked to, including 425 Brigade Commander Colonel Jason Jones. He was here in 2009. He says the tides have turned as a result of the U.S. taking a step back and letting the Afghans take the lead.
And they're basically telling us after the fact, and oftentimes, hey, we just did X. So it's night and day from where we were.
While the Afghan government continues the effort to prove its legitimacy, which has recently been called into question following a number of attacks carried out by insurgents which claim more than 130 lives over a 9-day period.
This is an act of desperation on the behalf of the Taliban.
General John Richardson, commander of TAC East, says recent attacks are an effort to discredit the government. He says the Taliban know they can't stand toe-to-toe with the Afghan army, instead trying to sow unrest through attacks on innocent people.
These kind of horrific attacks on the civilian population is only going to hurt the Taliban. It's not going to help them at this point.
And although the Taliban remains a big problem across the country,
ISIS is definitely the bigger threat.
Captain Todd Graham, who is on his second tour in Afghanistan since 2014, says the rise of ISIS in Afghanistan has changed the dynamics of the mission.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So I know there's talks way above my level as far as like possible reconciliation with the Taliban and things like that, but we'll see. I mean, right now ISIS is definitely the bigger threat.
But no matter who the enemy is, 425 leaders say the Afghan National Defense Security Forces must lead.
The Afghans have to win this war for themselves. They need help and they need advice, assistance, enablement when we can enable them, but they have to lead the fight.
The fight to take back their country, which could eventually stamp the U.S. military's ticket home.
Although Afghan security forces have improved dramatically over the years, 425 and Resolute Support leaders acknowledge that the Afghan army is essentially only about 17 years old and that it will still take more time and money before U.S. assistance is no longer needed. Reporting from Jalalabad, Blake Essig, Channel 2 News.
NATO and U.S. Army leaders say the Afghan National Army has made significant strides towards becoming an independent force, one capable of providing security for its own country.
Channel 2's Blake Essig brings us the story of some of the Afghans who have risked all to make that progress possible.
When you live in a war zone, sometimes your chance for a better life is to risk your own life. And that's exactly what Afghan translators do every single day.
Not a native speaker, so it is hard to know.
I'm not going to tell you his name, and I'm not going to show you his face.
What ping pong do you like?
Sure, he's really good at ping pong, but that's not why he's here. And it's not why his life is in danger.
And absolutely, they will catch us and they will kill us.
He's referring to the Taliban, and the reason they want him dead, it's because of what he does for a living, more specifically, who he does it for.
They don't ask who you are. They don't think about you or your human being. They just see if you are a linguist, an interpreter, or anyone, even a shopkeeper with the United States soldiers. Whenever they catch you, they kill you.
A reality he's witnessed firsthand. At 17 years old, he and a friend applied to be interpreters for the U.S. military. He was denied because he wasn't 18. His friend got the job and was sent to Kandahar.
After 2 weeks, my friend, they brought their dead body to Kabul, and I saw, oh my God, he's my best friend. He is my best friend. How he died? So the Taliban shot on his neck, and he was killed. And it was just 2 weeks in Kandahar city, and they brought their dead body to Kabul. And I, with my own eyes, I saw him.
Despite what he's witnessed and all too aware of the risk, still, he applied again. And for the last 5 months, he's been working for the U.S. Army as a linguist, a critical communications bridge between advisors from Alaska's Spartan Brigade and the Afghan National Army.
It's very important, 100%. If I don't go to the mission to interpret the U.S. Army's advice to the ANA guys, there will be no mission.
A mission he's sacrificed nearly everything to be a part of, lying to friends, family, and anyone who asks where he lives or what he does for a living.
I cannot tell them, I cannot tell anyone about this, my job.
He says it's worth the risk to rid his country of Islamic extremism.
I accept the risk of death, but it is my dream to serve my country, to my people, that to get out of the old mind of Taliban, where they teach the youths to radicalism, extremism. So I want to serve from this way.
For America, this war is about nation building, stabilizing a key region in the turbulent Middle East. But for this translator, it's a battle for the soul of a nation, his nation, a battle with danger, consequence, and opposing ideology. With his own life in peril, this translator and many others just like him have made a choice. And while we can't call him by his given name, some call him heroic. Most of the interpreters working with the U.S. military are on 2-year contracts. And once the man whose story you just heard is finished, he says he plans on applying for a special interpreter's visa to enter the United States, recognizing that as long as the Taliban exists, he can no longer live in his country. Reporting from eastern Afghanistan, Blake Essig, Channel 2 News.
Every soldier from the 425 deployed across eastern Afghanistan has sacrificed something to answer the nation's call.
In the final installment of Operation Afghanistan, Channel 2's Blake Essig introduces us to one member of Alaska's Spartan Brigade who gave up his pursuit of a musical career, at least temporarily, to join the ranks of the enlisted.
His name is Specialist Seon Kim, a young man who put his dream on hold to serve his country. To safely get around Afghanistan, taking to the air becomes almost routine. Each day, more than 500 fixed and rotor-wing aircraft move supplies and soldiers across the country. But when aircraft fall victim in this 16-year conflict, members of the 425 are ready to respond within minutes.
We have a board over here with everyone's name.
27-year-old Specialist Seon Kim, originally from South Korea,
This is my room.
is one of 2 medics on what's known as the Area Response Force.
My job is to make sure that those people in the downed aircraft have the best chance they have to survive and get to higher care.
Still stable? Minutes can mean the difference between life and death for the most seriously injured.
Check that tourniquet.
Requiring a constant state of readiness.
It can happen in any moment, even now.
A mission that can be stressful and even mentally draining, which is why soldiers say you have to find a way to clear the mind. And for most, that means spending time here, hitting the weights. As for Kim, he frequents the gym too.
Let's see, where should I play?
But he's not here to lift. For him, it's all about the acoustics. Kim's been playing since he was 9.
And the sound and the almost limitless voice that you can make out of it. Different textures and colors.
His dream, to travel the world as a concert violinist. Judging by the talent, Afghanistan may only be his first stop. And while he doesn't get to play as much as he'd like, it still serves as practice.
There's no such thing as perfection in violin or in music. You just keep playing all the time.
And the guys at the gym don't seem to mind attending his pop-up concerts.
You know, you hear that, and it's the kind of sound that just kind of strikes you, and you stop and just have to listen to it, because it just kind of it draws you in, it's enthralling.
To keep that audience, he even takes requests.
So we ask him to play certain songs, whether it's AC/DC or the theme song to Game of Thrones.
While the music choices here may be up for debate, Kim's decision to join the Army was not, opting to put his own musical aspirations on hold.
I still have all of my life to pursue it.
To honor the country which gave him citizenship and an opportunity to receive higher education. Meaning for now, Specialist Kim is focused on saving lives and serving his country, with the hard rock of Rotors providing the soundtrack. And for this symphonic soldier, that hits just the right note. Specialist Kim still has another 2 years of service to complete. He says once he is done, he plans to continue pursuing his dream of traveling the world and becoming a concert violinist. Reporting from Bagram Airfield in Afghanistan, Blake Essig, Channel 2 News.
Man,
The sounds of serenity in the middle of a war zone.
That was an amazing story. I think that's my favorite one of this series so far.
You know, reporter Blake Essig and photojournalist Albert Luton, his partner over there in Afghanistan, have done a marvelous job the last several nights.
They certainly have.
Showing us what our friends and neighbors, I mentioned this the other night, who live in Anchorage, Eagle River, the Valley, who serve here at J-Bear but are over there deployed, far away from home from their families, we get to see what they're really going through over there.